Vice President Kamala Harris will give her closing argument later today during a high-profile speech at the Ellipse in Washington, D.C. As many as 20,000 people are expected to attend. The speech will take place in the same spot former President Donald Trump rallied supporters on January 6th, 2021, before inciting a violent mob that attacked the Capitol, the insurrection. Joining us now, Chair of the Harris Campaign, Jen O'Malley Dillon. Jen, it's great to have you on. If you could share with us the central arguments the Vice President plans to make and speak more on the symbolism of the location of this speech.
Thanks, Mika. Great to be here with you. And I think today you're going to hear from the Vice President the choice before the American people. She's going to lay out a hopeful, optimistic vision for the future in a way that we can all turn the page from the chaos and division of Donald Trump. She's really focused on her to-do list, how she's going to deliver for the American people on the issues they really care about as she's traveled the country. She knows that costs are too high. She knows that people want to afford a home. They want to start a small business. She obviously understands the importance of fighting for everyone's freedom, especially reproductive freedom. So I think you're going to hear from her the very strong new way forward she's been laying out across the country, how she represents a new generation of leadership, but also how the American people deserve a leader who is focused on them. This isn't even about Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. It's about the American people. And I think the backdrop of the White House being at the Ellipse today, the last time a lot of the American people saw that was on January 6th. There is so much more we can do together, so much more hopeful future we can have. One of the things that is the hallmark of the events that the Vice President has all across the country is people coming together and just having fun. You know, they're singing and they're dancing. It really is a joyful experience and an optimistic, hopeful gathering of people in their communities. And we think that we can bring people together, talk about the future, and really turn the page on Donald Trump.
A stark contrast, of course, from what we saw there nearly 4 years ago. Jen, good morning. We're 1 week from Election Day. As you know, hearing from friends and family members and maybe even inside your own campaign, Democrats are gnashing their teeth. They're panicked. Oh, my gosh, Donald Trump's going to be president again. What can you say to the extent you're able to share internally about the state of this race right now? With 7 days to go, there's a ton of early vote in, we know that, but where should people be focusing? Where should Democrats, supporters of Kamala Harris, what should they be feeling right now?
Well, we feel very good about where we are. As you say, we're 1 week out and we're closing this election strong. It is okay to be anxious and nervous because you understand what the stakes are, and we understand that too. But as we look at the race, we know that this is a margin of error race. It's been very stable and very close for the entire fall. We are on track to win this very close race. And, you know, at this time in a campaign, sometimes you're looking at the map and the pathway to 270 electoral votes, which we're obviously very focused on. And maybe you say, oh, this state isn't in play or that state isn't in play. Every one of our 7 battleground states are that close. They are all in play. And we feel very good about what we're seeing in early vote. And that is, you know, our voters turning out to vote. People that are lower propensity voters, they don't always vote. We're seeing on our side supporters for the Vice President turning out in higher numbers, exactly as we'd like to see to win a close race. And I'd also add, we know that there are still people that are undecided in this country. You know, there's about probably 3 to 5% in each of our battleground states of people that are still making up their mind. And from our own research, those undecided voters are more open to supporting the Vice President. And that's why the speech today is so important. And it's so important that we continue to tell the story and the choice in front of the American people as we close this out. And hopefully we are the last people they hear before they go vote, whether it's from the Vice President's speech or our amazing organization and volunteers all across the country.
Jen, it's been striking how much of a focus there has been of late from the Vice President. Also some key surrogates like Liz Cheney talking to Republicans who might have voted for Donald Trump once or twice before, but looking now to cross the aisle, creating that permission structure for them to do so. Tell us a little bit about those efforts, but in particular the focus on Republican women who might be quietly ready to vote on abortion rights.
Well, I think fundamentally the vice president is going to be a president for all Americans. You hear her talk about this in her entire career. She's never asking, are you a Democrat or a Republican, before she's going to do something to help you. And we know in this country, the American people want a broad coalition of support. They want bipartisanship. They want leaders that are focused on getting the job done. And so we are proud of the support that we've built. And it's also very important for people to hear and understand not just the stakes of the election, but what we're all focused on. You talk about reproductive freedom. Of course, you know, the vice president was in Houston on this past Friday, which was such an extraordinary event. What was so powerful beyond the wonderful support and Beyonce and Willie Nelson and the vice president in her speech was real people, real women and men talking about the harm that has happened to them since Roe v. Wade. And these courageous, brave women have been traveling across the country talking about what the real world impacts are. This isn't about policy. It's about people's lives. And as the vice presidents traveled, whether she stood with Liz Cheney or other Republicans, many of them worked for Donald Trump. They're the ones that have seen him up close. And that's why their voice is so powerful here as we communicate in these final days.
Another part of the population that has seen up close what Trump's impact is on them is women. And I have in a few minutes coming up a roundtable of women who have suffered traumatic, terrible, hideous, dreadful reproductive emergencies because of Trump's abortion bans. And I've been showing them on the air over the past week. At one point, we had 5 men around the table, just so happened, and all of them flinched. 2 of them cried watching these videos. I know the campaign brings in a lot of data, and I'm wondering if you think this could be a defining issue, not just for women, but for women and men in this election.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is so much bigger than just a woman's issue. It's for all of us. And, you know, we spent a lot of time making clear that a second term for Donald Trump will be worse. But we don't have to imagine that, because it's already become worse. The impacts of him overturning Roe v. Wade with his Supreme Court justices has made people's lives more difficult, has taken away their choices and their ability to get the health care that they need. You know, there's the famous quote that we often use ourselves in the campaign, where Donald Trump says that women should be punished. Well, that isn't an idea. That is actually happening. And the punishment is in preventing care for women. People like Amanda Thurman, whose family has been so strong in communicating. You heard from Andrea in Texas, or Amanda and Josh, that tell about their stories and having to be so sick before they can even be taken care of, because hospitals and physicians are afraid of being incriminated here for that. Those things are happening in so much of this country, and with Donald Trump, it's going to happen to all of us. So we feel that this race, these final 7 days, people are still making up their minds, women and men all across the country, and we know we can turn the page on this division and chaos and pain that Donald Trump has caused, and that's why we're so focused on today, and we really are so optimistic about the final stretch here.
We'll be watching that speech tonight in Washington. Harris campaign chair Jen O'Malley Dillon, you got a lot of work to do. We'll let you get back to it 1 week from Election Day. Jen, thanks so much.
Wow. Thank you.